I'm Tom Fielden. I'm the science correspondent and an assistant editor on the Today programme. And it's a great pleasure to welcome you all here today to this special event, the first in a new season, the autumn season here at the RSA. Just before we begin, though, just a few housekeeping rules, if you like. Could I ask you to make sure your mobile phones are switched to silent at the very least? And we are live streaming the event today. So, as usual, welcome to all our web viewers and listeners. And a reminder, the hashtag for this event, if you want to join in, take part, is hashtag RSA Sapiens, if you want to get involved in the discussion on Twitter. Now, with the housekeeping notices over, it really is a great pleasure to introduce this afternoon's event and our distinguished speaker, the historian, Dr. Yuval Harari. For those of you who don't know, Yuval Noah Harari has a PhD in history from the University of Oxford. He now lectures at the Hebrew University in Jerusalem. And he lectures on an incredibly broad range of world history. And I really do mean in the most broad terms, the relationship between history and biology, justice, happiness, and of course the history of Homo sapiens. I understand 65,000 people have signed up for his online course, A Brief History of Humankind, which is really what we're here to talk about today. His latest book, Sapiens, is already an international bestseller and is being published in more than 20 languages worldwide. In 2012, Harari was awarded the annual Polonsky Prize for Creativity and Originality, and I certainly think that's true of Sapiens. On a more personal note, I'm really, really pleased to finally have met Yuval. It is a great pleasure, and I need to thank you, actually, because it's not often you come across a book like this, where from the very first line you just think, wow, I wish I'd thought of that, I wish I could have written that. But certainly that is true of Sapiens. And the next time I get to talk to a colleague who comes up to me and says, well, why haven't you written your book yet? I can just point to Sapiens and say, it's all right, it's been taken care of, it's done. I don't have to do that. This is the book that I would have written if I could have written a book quite like this. It really is a remarkable piece of work. So with that, I'm just going to introduce Yuval, ask you to come up here. He's going to talk for about 20 minutes and show you some slides, and we'll take it from there. Yuval.
So hello, everybody. I'm happy to see all of you here. And I would like to use the next 20 minutes to speak about some things that interest us very much about ourselves, about our species, Homo sapiens, to understand how our species, from all the different animals on the planet, came to dominate, to control planet Earth, which was not obvious at all. If you go back 70,000 years ago, you find that the planet is populated by many different kinds of humans, many species of humans. Homo sapiens was just one of them. And all these humans, the most important thing to know about them is that they were unimportant creatures. 70,000 years ago, there were less than 1 million humans of all species together, and their impact on the ecosystem was minimal, like that of gorillas today, far less than that, say, of jellyfish or bumblebees. And as you fast forward to today, you find that there is only one human species left, our species, Homo sapiens, but we completely dominate this planet. We basically own this planet. And the big question is, how did we do it? How did we conquer Earth? And when this question is raised, the question of our secret of success, people usually turn to the individual level. They want to believe, they want to feel that there is something special about me personally, that I am so much superior to a chimpanzee or to a baboon or to a dog or to an elephant or anything else, and this is why things like me, humans, this is why they control the planet. But the fact is that on the individual level, we are not so unique, we are not so smart, we are not so powerful. if you put me and the chimpanzee on a lone island together and we had to struggle for survival, I would definitely put my bets on the chimpanzee, not on myself. And it is not something special about myself. I think it's true about most people, that if you put them alone with a chimpanzee, that's the end. I mean, the chimpanzee will definitely win over. So it's not an individual level. It's not something about my body. It's not something inside my brain. It's something else. It's something outside. It's actually something on the collective level. If you put 1,000 chimpanzees and 1,000 humans on a lone island, then the humans will win quite easily. For the simple reason that 1,000 chimpanzees can never cooperate effectively. This is the real secret of success of Homo sapiens, the ability to cooperate in large numbers and flexibly. Now, there are other animals that can cooperate effectively in large numbers. The social insects, ants and bees, are the obvious example. However, ants and bees are very inflexible in the way that they cooperate. If they encounter a new situation, a new danger, a new opportunity, they cannot reinvent the social system, the way that they cooperate in the colony or in the beehive in order to face this new challenge. So they cooperate in very large numbers, but in a rigid way. Other social animals, like the chimpanzees, like the dolphins, like the elephants, they can cooperate in a much more flexible way. However, they do so only in small numbers, because cooperation among them is based on intimate knowledge. I have to know the other chimpanzee in order to cooperate with him or her. I cannot cooperate with strangers. Homo sapiens, the really unique thing about our species is the ability to combine both these things, to cooperate in large numbers, far larger than the ants and the bees, and to do it flexibly, far more flexibly, in fact, than the chimpanzees or the elephants or the dolphins. So this is the real secret of success of our story, of our species, sorry. We are the only animal that can cooperate flexibly in large numbers. And this is the basis for the immense power that political networks of humans gain, that economic system, trade system, of religions, of churches, of all the various things that humans have managed to accomplish during their history are not the accomplishment of a single individual, but they are always the accomplishment of a network of cooperation of many different individuals, and in particularly many strangers. Take even this lecture as an example. What's happening now in this hall cannot happen with chimpanzees. Chimpanzees never give lectures to strangers. Now, if you take, say, maybe there are 100 people here in the room now, if you cram together 100 chimpanzees who never met before, you will get chaos. But with people, you can get an event like this, an intellectual exchange. I don't know most of the people here in the room, and you don't really know me, and many of you probably don't know each other, and nevertheless, we can cooperate in a very orderly manner to create this event, this intellectual exchange. Now, cooperation is not always nice. Sometimes when people say cooperation, they think about Sesame Street and how to teach children to cooperate with one another, and it sounds very, very, very nice. But cooperation is also the basis for all the horrible things that humans have been doing, are doing. Prisons are also a system of cooperation between strangers, and so are armies and arms factories and concentration camps. These are all based on the same thing, on large-scale cooperation between strangers. So it's not always nice. But the next big question that arises, suppose that, yes, maybe I managed to convince you that large-scale cooperation is the basis for the sapiens' success. The next question that comes in mind is how come Homo sapiens, alone of all the animals, is able to weave these giant networks of cooperation between strangers, which chimpanzees or dolphins or elephants cannot. So the answer, the short answer to this question is the human imagination. If you examine any large-scale human cooperation, you will find that at its basis are imaginary stories, stories that people invent and believe and tell one another. And as long as many people believe in the same imaginary story, they follow the same rules and laws and obey the same norms and the same values. The real secret of success of our species is that we alone can talk about things that don't exist at all, anywhere, except in our own imagination, in the stories that we invented. All the other animals, they too communicate. Chimpanzees communicate, and dolphins communicate, and elephants communicate, but they communicate information about things that really exist. They talk about trees, they talk about rivers, they talk about lions, about predators, about things like that. Humans know how to talk about all these things, but also humans can talk about things that don't exist at all, like gods, like money, like nations, like human rights, all these things that we ourselves invented and that exist only in our shared stories. You can never convince a chimpanzee to do something, say to give you a banana, by promising that chimpanzee that after you die, you know what happens? You will go to chimpanzee heaven, and there you will receive lots and lots of bananas for your good deeds. No chimpanzee will ever be convinced by such a story to do anything. Only us, only Homo sapiens, can believe such stories and can be motivated for action by such stories. And this is why we control the world, and the chimpanzees are locked up in zoos and research laboratories. And if you check, it's not just religion. The easiest example to give is, of course, religion. But it's not just religion. It's the same with our legal system, with our political system, with our economic system. Money is also just a story. Chimpanzees and dolphins and wolves, none of them uses money. None of them, they can exchange things. I give you a banana, you give me coconut. But the idea of money, this is something unique to humans because, again, it is based on a story about something that exists only in our imagination. We take, say, a piece of paper or a piece of gold, which is worth nothing. You can't do anything with gold. You can't eat it, you can't drink it, you can't wear it, you can't even make weapons out of it because it's too soft. So you take something without any inherent value and you tell a story. Look, this piece of worthless metal or this piece of colorful paper, it is worth 10 bananas. And if enough people believe that story, then it becomes an extremely effective story. So it's not just the religion. Even the bank managers and the finance ministers, they are incredibly creative and powerful storytellers. And their stories are what moves the world. Their stories is what enables us to weave these systems of cooperation where millions of strangers are willing to do amazing things and sometimes terrible things just for these colorful pieces of paper. So this is the power of the human imagination. So we see then that Homo sapiens, in contrast to all the other animals in the world, Homo sapiens lives in a dual reality. Other animals, like the baboons or alligators or lions, they live inside an objective reality made of trees and rivers and other animals and clouds and winds and whatnot. We humans also live in this reality. We also encounter trees and lions and rivers and mountains, but we also have another reality. In addition to this objective reality, we also live inside a fictional reality, a reality that we invented, that exists only in our imagination, a reality that contains things like nations, which are just a story that we invented, which contains money, which is populated by gods, which includes things like human rights, which again, it's our invention. And what is amazing about history is not only that humans inhabit this dual reality, the layer of objective reality, and on it another layer of fictional reality. What is really amazing is that over time, fictional reality has become more and more powerful until we reach the situation today when the very survival of trees and rivers and lions and chimpanzees depends on the imaginary stories that Homo sapiens has invented. Aboriginal Australians, they explain the world, what is happening in the world, by one of their key concepts is the concept of dream time, according to which we actually inhabit a dream world created by the dreams of mythical beings. These beings dream the world, and we live inside the dreams of these mythical beings. And this, in my view, is an extremely accurate depiction of the world. We are living inside the dreams of mythical entities like the European Union, and like Google, and like the dollar, which exist nowhere except in these fictional stories. And you can test yourself, you can check for yourself, try to see what are you thinking about, what are you worried about during your day-to-day life. Many people find that they think very little about real things like trees and rivers and lions, and most of the day they are constantly preoccupied by these fictional inventions like money and like nations and like gods and corporations and things like that. So thank you for listening, and I hope that your dreams will be more interesting after this lecture.
That's wonderful, Yuri. Thank you. That's great. The power of dreams. Absolutely incredible. Thank you very much for that presentation. In a few moments, I'm going to throw the floor open to throw the questions open to the floor. But just before I do that, Yuval, I want to just ask one or two of my own, if I can, because I've got you here now, so which is absolutely great. And I want to go right back to the beginning, if I can, to start off with the beginning of the book. I mean, as we say, it is a very broad, sweeping approach to history. I mean, physics and chemistry, they're done and dusted in the first paragraph, aren't they? Biology in the second. And then you take us, from this, I've got a quote here, from an insignificant animal minding its own business in the corner of Africa to this master of the planet and terror of the ecosystem. And you do that in a series of kind of key watershed moments, don't you? The first one is obviously the cognitive revolution. Then we've got the agricultural revolution, emergence of religion, industrial and scientific revolutions. That cognitive one, that's the big leap, though, isn't it? That's the most important moment, really.
Yeah. I mean, the cognitive revolution is the point at which this new sapiens language appeared. We don't know exactly how, whose unique feature is this ability to talk about things that don't exist. Because communication is very common in the animal kingdom. Almost all animals communicate, but they communicate about real things. The strange thing about us is that we communicate more and more about things that exist only here.
And it's not so much, I mean, because as you say, you point out at the beginning, I mean, there are several species of bears on the planet, and there were several species of humans on the planet, and yet we go down to one in a very rapid space of time. And you don't really get into exactly what happened there. I mean, it's enough that